you have to define your variables. So we can have two variables, two equations, but you have to tell me what x and y represent. At the end, how do I want you to answer? If I give you a problem in words, you need to answer in words, so I expect a sentence. So easy points. If you get everything else wrong, I will give you a point for defining your variables, I will give you a point for a sentence. Likewise, if you get everything right, but you don't do either of those two things, you missed two. So find two numbers. So I'm looking for two numbers. So I'm just going to say x is the first number, y is the second number. Okay, I defined my variables. I said what x and y are. Doesn't have to be anything fancy here. All right, whose sum is 10. What does that mean? Add them together, it equals 10. And whose squares, what's a square? What's it saying? Yeah, I square them, differ, so that means we would subtract by 20. Okay, can I solve this by elimination? No, my variables aren't the same, right? I have x and this is x squared. So we're going to have to do substitution. So let's take the first equation. If I solve that for x, then x is 10 minus y. And I'm going to plug that into the second one. We get 10 minus y squared minus y squared equals 20. How do I do 10 minus y squared? What happens to my y squared? That's handy. So I have a negative 20y if I subtract over my 100. It's negative, oops, it's negative 80. Divide, and y is 4. So then if I plug it back in, we know x is 10 minus y, so 10 minus 4 is 6. So then we just write a sentence, so the numbers are 6 and 4. So define your variables, write your system, solve it, and answer in sentence. Look at the next one. In a recent survey, the average number of texts sent by two age groups, 18 to 24-year-olds and those 55 or over, was 2,172. However, the number of texts sent by the 18 to 24-year-olds exceeded the number sent by those 55 or over by 3,362. Determine how many were sent by each age group. So what are my variables? How would I define them? What would x be? And then y would be the text sent by 55 and over. So now we have to write an equation. The average sent by the two age groups. How do we find an average? plus y divided by 2 equals 2,172. Okay, the number sent by those 18 to 24-year-olds exceeded the number sent by 55 or over by 3,362. How would I write that equation? If we're finding out how many it exceeded, it's how many more. So depending on how we set it up, if, let's say, I wanted to say you had 5 more than me, okay? You could just subtract our two values and you would get 5, as long as you put the bigger one first, right? So which one's bigger? So then x minus y equals that. Now this isn't the only way. You could say x equals 3,362 plus y, so there are different options. We just have to have an equivalent equation. All right. So how would we solve this? What if I took that first equation? How could I get rid of the divided by 2? So then I would get, these would cancel, so it'd be x plus y equals what? 4,344. Now what could we do? We eliminate those y's drop. So 2x equals okay, once we have x, we can plug it back into either of them to find y. And so if I just did it in the first one, now add up my y and subtract, so we get y equals 491. So then we write our sums at the end. All right. Any questions? Let's try another one. Could have been better, but it's fine. A box with an open top has a square base and 4 sides of equal height. So I have a box, it doesn't have a lid on it. Oh, I can't draw straight today. Not good. All right. I have a square base. So that means on the bottom, the sides are the same. And did I give you any? I didn't say the height was the same, so that would be like y. If you draw a picture and label, that counts as defining a variable. So you could either tell me y is the height and x is the length of a side, or you could draw the picture and label it. The volume is 54. How do we find volume? Length times width times height. So x times y. So x squared y equals 54. Then it says the height, so my height, that's y, means equals double the length of the base. So my base length is x, so double that would be 2x. So we defined our variables, we wrote our equations. Now, we just have to solve. Substitution or elimination, which one's going to be easier? We can substitute our y into that first one. Divide by 2. And to get rid of a cube, we cube root. Cube root of 27 is 3. That means y, 2 times x, so 2 times 3, 6. I want the dimensions of the box, so length, width, and height. So I could say the box is 3 inches by 3 inches by 6 inches, or you could say the box has a base 3 inches wide and a height of 6, something along those lines. Is that okay? One more. A student invests a total of $5,000 at 3% and 4% annually. After 1 year, the student receives a total of $187.50 interest. How much does the student invest at each rate? So x and y, we need the amount at each rate. So x can be my 3% and y could be the amount at 4%. If they invest a total of $5,000, what's my first equation? Okay, next thing we're talking about interest. It's just 1 year, so interest is rate times time, principal times rate times time, times just 1. So all you have to do is take your interest rate times your amount. So 3%, so b 0.03x. Y is 4%, so plus 0.04y. Equals 187.50. All right, how do you want to solve this one? Okay, so we can take the first one and solve for x. Set that into the second. 0.03 times 5,000. Combine my y's and subtract over the 150. I 3,750. Plug it in to get x. So let's do an invest $1,250 at 3%. And $3,750 at 4%. What questions do you guys have for me? So make sure you do not forget to define your variables and answer in a sentence. The hardest part is really just writing your equations. After that, it's solving ones like we were doing last. So there is a handout posted on Classroom, and you guys have a lot of time to work on this.